Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DABCC TV. I'm very excited about this episode. This is a long time in the works type of episode. So I have Mattias from Dell on the line, and he's Mattias, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us today.
I really appreciate you taking the time being with me as well.
Hey, no problem at all. It's like I said, we've been trying to put this thing together for eons, I believe, and always to my fault. We had never happened, never materialized. But here we are, and I'm really excited about seeing what you guys are up to. I've been following the Foglight stuff for quite some time. And what was the previous name to Foglight? That it wasn't always Foglight, right?
Well, we have had different acquisitions over time, and you might remember a company called Vision Core.
You bet.
So I'm coming from that company, and we had a product called vCharter Pro, and when Quest bought us, we kind of migrated into the Foglight brand, so it was called vFoglight. And then we also acquired a company called vKernel, and they had a product line called vOps Server Standard. So we have now kind of shifted names to kind of rebranding everything under Foglight for virtualization. And today I will speak about our free edition.
Very cool. But yeah, I definitely. Well, I know, both those companies and vKernel. I've been working with them for quite some time. They make some neat stuff, and Dell, you guys picked up all those guys, so that's great. And they picked up you. So as always, the first question, and we do these even on the videos, is tell us who you are, and what do you do over at Dell?
I'm an evangelist for Dell software, and I've been with the company about 5 or 6 years. Started out with Vision Core 2008, and started with more of an SE role. So I've been in the field, and before that I was a technical consultant doing lots of virtualization projects. So I'm about 10 years into my virtualization hands-on experience. And over the years with Vision Core and Quest, wanted to get more involved with products development and product management. So I moved actually over to US, over to pretty much where you live in Florida, and work with our product management team. So I got more involved with the different products that we do, and with my experience from all the customers I've been visiting and all the projects I've been doing over the years, it was a good kind of bringing my experience over to the product management team to help them understand what kind of problems people or VM admins are facing and how kind of transform that into the product. So that was my role in the US. Mm-hmm. And now I'm back in Sweden, but I'm still in the product management team in the US, helping out with the products. I'm a product manager for Foglight for Virtualization Free Edition, and I'm also helping out with our commercial product lines and also evangelizing all around performance monitoring in the virtualization space.
Well, that sounds great. USA back to Sweden. I don't blame you. I love Sweden. It's one of my favorite places on earth. Although it's so darn expensive, but it's just so beautiful. Just so beautiful. The people are wonderful too. So yeah. So the PM of we got the right guy on here. So what is your goal with the free edition? Now, what's your goal with Foglight in general? Can you talk just real briefly about that?
Yeah, so free edition it's a great toolbox for VM admins, and the goal was for me to kind of create some. I've been in this space for a long time, and also been very involved with the community and been awarded vExpert a couple of years. And this is my kind of way of giving back to the community, a great tool to assess virtual environments. It's a very easy way to quickly get a kind of a glimpse into the virtual environment to see how well it's performing, what kind of problems you have. So it's a kind of a great starting point for customers or anyone running a virtualization and don't have any budget or size of the environment where you really could get a full blown solution in your environment. So this is kind of a good starting point for anyone.
Perfect. Now, I have one more question, then I'll turn. We want to see it ultimately. Nobody came here to listen to me talk, but we want to see this thing. So, but first, if they like it, is there an easy path to the full blown version?
Yeah, so the free edition there's no limitations of size of environments or time that you're allowed to run. You can run it for as long as you like. It's a very simple approach to go from the free edition to get unlock the full functionality of standard edition, where you get all the functionality and even more advanced features without have to reinstall, reconfigure, do anything. Just with a single click, you can just unlock the full functionality. So that's a very simple step to take. And I can show, later in the demo what the free edition is all about and what additional functionality is available in the commercial products. And we also have an enterprise edition, which is more of an end-to-end monitoring capabilities where you can monitor both the virtual hypervisor layer as well as mission critical applications, the storage, physical storage environment. You can really get from monitoring from the application down to this disk spindle, really end to end, to see exactly where your problems are.
Well, that's great. Well, with no further ado, let's see this thing. I'll give you the floor.
All right. So I just wanted to, we talked briefly about different product lines that we have. We've, as I said, done a rebranding. So if you can see here, we used to have from the vKernel acquisition 2 products, VMWare Explorer, which now is Foglight for Virtualization Free Edition. This is the one that we're going to talk about here today. But we also have Standard Edition and Enterprise Edition, as well as Storage Manager. So the quick overview before I go over to the live demo. So the freeware suite is a suite of different utilities combined into a single virtual appliance. So it's just one file that you download from our website. And once you import that appliance into your environment, you can then have a fully configured virtual machine that you can just power on and then configure it to or point it to your environment, and then it starts collecting data. And it assesses the health of the virtual environments and quickly identifies problems either in performance, capacity, or inefficiency, as well as misconfigurations. And it supports different hypervisors, both VMware, vSphere, Microsoft Hyper-V, and Red Hat Enterprise Virtualization. And here is the different utilities in the toolbox. I will just quickly mention them, and then we'll kind of focus more of them in the demo. So the latest one that we released is called Snapshot Explorer, and this one detects snapshots and even including orphaned snapshots. And I will talk more about what orphaned snapshot is when we are in this demo. And Storage Explorer is a great tool to look at storage performance and capacity. Change Explorer is kind of a unique utility. It's actually look at the virtual environment and see what have changed over time. So you can quickly see what critical changes has occurred and actually who did the change. An Environment Explorer is a great overview of the entire environment. You can quickly see all the things that matters to you. A vScope Explorer is a kind of a heat map of performance, capacity, and efficiency. And last but not least is Search My VM Explorer, which is more of a Google search capability for the virtual environment. So this is all the 6 free utilities that is combined into a single virtual appliance that I'm not going to switch over and do a live demo for.
That's very neat. I noticed some of those tools are vKernel tools. If people are familiar, some of them like the Search My VM, that was an old VM kernel tool, and not old, but that's neat that you guys put all that together.
So when I took this new role, and was kind of at the same time that we acquired vKernel, so they had a few different point solutions. Search My VM was one of them, and there was a few others as well. And my vision for the free tool was kind of to combine multiple utilities combined into a single toolbox, so you can get different visibilities into the environment, really depending on what you want to do. But with just collecting the data once, then you can have multiple ways of looking at the data. So that's why I was starting to develop these different utilities. But it's based on vkernel IP from the past, but just taking the good stuff they had and made them even better.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
So what I've done now is I've started up my appliance. I pointed it to actually a couple of different environments, both a couple of VMware environments. I have Microsoft Hyper-V in here and also Red Hat. And we also, I didn't say that, but we also support vCloud Director as well. So we can connect to multiple sources and provide you with a single dashboard with all this information. And now I'm logged into the appliance, and this is the kind of the welcome screen. And the first tab is Environment Explorer, and as you can see, is different tabs, is different utilities, and looks a bit different and provides different kinds of information. So Environment Explorer is a great overview dashboard of your virtual infrastructure. And this environment summary screen quickly tells you how many virtual machines you have, how many data stores, how many hosts, etc., that you have in your environment. Also lists the physical resources, so you can quickly see how many CPUs, memory, and storage you have, as well as how much you have allocated to your virtual infrastructure. So you can quickly see if you have over-allocated CPU, memory, or storage, which is pretty neat. You can get that really, just looking at this, you can get so much data out of your environment. And as well, VM density, which is just a measurement of how many virtual machines you're running on each host, both minimum, maximum, and average. And ultimately, what you want to do with virtualization is to drive the density as high as possible, so you can really kind of cram out the maximum value of your infrastructure. I just want to highlight, because probably most listeners are technical, so I want to kind of stay technical here. There is two really neat things here on this part of the screen. First, snapshots. You can quickly see if you have any snapshots in your environment. And we have actually a tool I will do later on here. It's called Snapshot Explorer, which can really zoom in on the snapshot situations. But this provides just a high-level overview. And this one down here, VMs with memory limits. I've seen so many customers that are facing problems because for some reason they have memory limits configured on their virtual machines. And what that is doing is that it's capping the amount of physical memory that the VM is using to a lower amount than it's actually been allocated. And that's going to cause lots of ballooning and swapping, and that can really kill performance. And the worst case I've seen was actually a bank in the Nordics that had about 80% of all their virtual machines were configured with a very low memory limit. So that means that all their virtual machines were using the VMware swap file on the storage array as a kind of a memory part. Instead of using physical memory, they were sending all that traffic to the storage array. So really, really poor performance until I figured out they had lots of memory limits and reconfigured that to unlimited, and then performance just got back to where it should have been in the start there. So this is a very important setting if you have memory limits. Shouldn't see any of those in normal circumstances.
Very cool.
And then you have these different tiles. So performance, if there's any performance problems right now, and also how many data stores it's been having latency problems over the last 24 hours. And inefficiency in ways, something that we see more and more in these days where the economy, you really want to make sure that you run as many virtual machines as possible, as well as where storage is pretty expensive these days. So you really want to make sure that you're not wasting storage. In this example here, we have about 30 to 40 virtual machines that have CPU and memory allocations that is kind of you've allocated too much resources. And some people, they think that it doesn't matter if they allocate 8 gigs of memory to a virtual machine if it's only using 2. But there's lots of extra overhead, both to the memory overhead, but as well if you remember, you also have a VMware swap file that's the same amount of size as the memory allocation. So you're going to waste lots of storage. And again, that's costs lots of money. So we're keeping a close look at what things you can do to make your environment more efficient, to sizing CPU memory, as well as storage. Storage, it could be lots of VMs that has been abandoned, and abandoned VMs is VMs that's no longer abandoned VMs is VMs you have removed from inventory, so they're just taking up lots of space, but they're not being actively run in the environment. Or it could be snapshots or powered off VMs. And zombie VMs is virtual machines that is up and running, but they're using a very low amount of resources. So maybe just a few CPU cycles, a few IOPS, and very low amount of memory. So you can safely assume that they're someone started up these VMs, they had a project that never got in production and forgot to remove those VMs. So you can save up lots of space as well as licenses. So you can see how much money you can save by following our recommendations. And capacity is kind of a simple overview of how many more VMs we can deploy in our existing environment. And this comes back to right sizing. If you do the right sizing, then you can add more VMs to your environment. And finally, changes. How many critical changes have occurred in the environment? And we categorize all the changes based on our experience, what in high, medium, and low impact risk. So you can quickly in this kind of environment explorer utility quickly see lots of information provided, like an at a glance information.
That's a great dashboard.
And again, the free tool, you can use it at all the things you see here on the screen. But to give you a few examples here in inefficiency in waste, if you wanna, we tell you that what virtual machines have waste, but in order to really leverage the advanced functionality as automatically reconfigure and schedule changes, etc., that requires the standard edition. So if a customer want to try out the full functionality, you could just click this activate trial button here and fill out this information, and then it will switch over to the fully functional 30 days trial of the commercial product.
Now, if they do that and then they decide, for whatever reason, maybe they just don't get the budget for it, and does it go back to the free version then after 30 days?
Yeah, you can switch back to the free edition after the 30 days if you don't have the budget or if you want to wait for some reason.
You can.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
So the second utility is vScope Explorer, and it provides like a heat map of your environment. And as you can see here, we have both VMware and Hyper-V. I believe we might have a little bit of a Red Hat here as well. So the thing is, you either select performance, capacity, or efficiency. It really depends on what focus you want to have. So this case here, I'm on performance tab, so I can quickly see if there's any problems here, and I have one virtual machine standing out here in red. So red means critical, really not something that you want to be in. Yellow indicates you have like a more warning, something is starting to become a problem. Red is when you're really past the things were not good anymore. So we can see here that we have a virtual machine is experiencing high CPU wait time. So it's an indication of that CPU scheduling isn't the best on this virtual machine. It could be that you have too many virtual CPUs, or that the host that it's running on might be a bit overworked. So we can quickly get that information here, as well as look at VM performance and host performance. So you can quickly change the focus over to host performance. So we see in our environment here that some of the hosts is kind of a little bit overworked. We have high memory utilization on this one as well. And here is lots of different problems. So again, it's kind of a quick at a glance of how the situation is. And same for capacity and efficiency, where you can find what virtual machines you have wasting CPU memory and storage resources. So here we have running out very low on resources and efficiency. This is a dev and test environment, so it's not the best one, but it's good to show lots of problems at least. All right, so efficiency, you can either look at data store or VM efficiency, and this is a test and dev environment, so it's not the best representation of a product environment, but you can see lots of errors and things are being inefficient here. We can see CPU, memory, and guest OS storage that could be reclaimed here. So that's basically the second utility, vScope Explorer, which provides performance, capacity, and efficiency heat map of your environment. And the third one is the Search My VM Explorer. And it allows you to search for anything, like if I type in any wildcard search, I'm typing in some part of the name here, you can search any criteria for virtual machines, hosts, clusters, and resource pools. You can do simple queries, as I did here, and then you'll see the results, and I can see lots of different information being returned. So for example, if I want to look at VMware hardware version, I can quickly see that, and I can also sort by any column by any data or being captured here. And it can then also report or export this to a CSV, PDF, or XML file. And it also allows you to create advanced searches. We can create a query, for example, show me all virtual machines with VMware hardware version 7 or older, and maybe where a guest OS is Windows 2000 or earlier, anything like you can create, multiple nested queries. So the purpose here is to find different criteria and then quickly export the data out to any format that you like. So I'm quickly going over the demo. I don't want to keep you here the whole night. So a Storage Explorer is probably one of my favorites, and we have asked lots of customers, and storage seems to be the number one issue or number one problem people are having. So the Storage Explorer provides both performance and capacity information, and it do this both for the data stores and the VM themselves on a single screen, as you can see here. So we start on the left here. We have storage performance top 10. So it lists the top 10 data stores. And you can, based on these different metrics. So if you want to see what right now it's sort on average throughput. So it lists the 10 data stores with the highest throughput. But if you want to look at maybe latency, I can click the latency column here. You can sort ascending or descending, and I can now see based on the average latency, the top 10 worst data stores. And it also provides all the different, throughput metrics as well as IOPS. And you can also see how many virtual machines that are running in this data store. It's pretty nice. And then the same thing, but with capacity focus, I can see my data stores and see where I have my available capacity. And if you're using thin provisioning, for example, you can actually see how much you have committed. Sometimes you could have situations where you have committed much more than you actually have the physical storage that you have. In this case, we have a total capacity of 49 gigabyte, but we have actually allocated 64. So we have an over commitment to 130%. At some point, you're going to be really careful, because if all those VMs, or not all, but if a few virtual machines actually going to use what they have been allocated, then you run out of the backend physical storage, and then you're pretty not in good situations, because then all those virtual machines will be shut down in order to not corrupt themselves, losing data. But it could definitely create lots of problems. So here you can quickly see all your data stores, how much space you have available. As well, again, here you can see the number of virtual machines. You don't probably want to run 85 virtual machines in a single data store. It's a major problem if you want to, if you lose that data store, or probably also going to be lots of performance problems when you're running 85 virtual machines in a single data store.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And here on the right side, we have more a performance focus again. And where we can quickly see what virtual machines are causing most storage traffic. So you can see this one here is actually generating lots of throughput, 225 megabytes per second. You can see all the IOPS and latencies. So lots of reds here in this environment. Again, it's a test and dev environment. But you can quickly see on this by just looking here where you have problems. And capacity for the virtual machines, you can see what logical disks are running out of space inside, the C drive or the root partitions for the different virtual machines. So I really like the storage dashboard because either you have a performance problem or it could be a capacity problem. You're running out of space. So you don't want to be in any of those two situations. So this one really helps the VM admins to get better visibility into the storage situation.
Yeah, Storage Explorer is neat. I mean, just the data you get out of it for free too. It's amazing.
Yeah, I really wanted to provide lots of different, both from the data store as well as the VM level. And it's also very, very nice to both have the performance and capacity at the same dashboard. Typically, if you look at vCenter, there's so much information in there, but you have to go to 15 different places to kind of look, and then there's no way to kind of lay it on one page like this. So this really is a great extension to what's available from vCenter. Yep. And now this is one also really, really cool feature, and it's called Change Explorer. And as we all know that changes happens, because you're probably, if you're a few VM admins in your environment, and you never know what the other guys are doing, and for some reason, when they have done the change, they might call out sick the next day or go on vacation or something. There's no way to track, what have changed, and suddenly you have a performance problem. People are calling you, say they can't access the system or it's really slow. So what this provides is a great overview of the virtual infrastructure changes. So we track all the changes that occurs, and then we categorize them on different risk impacts. So we have low, medium, and high. So, for example, if a VM is powered off, for example, that's considered a low impact risk. But if, for example, if you set a memory limit on a virtual machine, that is not a good thing. So that would be a high risk impact. Or we also have something called unusual event frequency. So if we see, for example, a vMotion event, that is considered a low risk impact. But if the same vMotion, the VM is vMotion between different hosts, lots of, going from one host to the next, and just keep spinning around, then we will trigger a high impact risk because it's happening multiple times in a short amount of time. So that you really also want to be on top of. But we can see here the impact risk, and again, you can sort on any of these columns. So we can see the time the change happened, what object was affected, what change did occur, and also see the values before and after, and see some details about the change and what user did change the values, and what folder they were in, and when they was started and what kind of object type. And we can sort on any column. So if I want to only see, for example, in this top here, I want to see my high impact risk changes. And I can also use filters. So if I want to, if there's any particular virtual machine that I know has some issues, I can just type in a part of the name, and it will only show me virtual machine that have VOPs in the name. And I can then also sort on username. If I see some username, these are when it's a dash here, it means it's been system initiated. But if you see here, for example, we see some user accounts that initiate these. So I can now also filter on this username. If I find out that this guy did a change that I'm not okay with, he might have done other changes as well. So now I can quickly kind of audit this user to see what else he has done in the environment. If I want to limit the amount of things I'm looking at, I can also exclude lower, medium changes, and only look at different kinds of changes. And here in the bottom here, we also see the number of changes that have occurred over time. I'm now going back to all the changes. But here we can quickly see when things are changing. And it's pretty interesting because if you have very high impact changes happening throughout your production window, that's not a good thing. So you probably need to see why that is happening and put in procedures to making sure that you have a changed window when people do critical changes, not to affect the end users. So that's a quick glance at Change Explorer, and a standard edition, which is the commercial version. Then you can also revert changes. You can right-click on any change and roll back to its previous state.
Oh, very
cool.
Cool.
Even schedule it. So if it requires a reboot or a system to shut down and restart, then you can schedule it to happen without you sitting in the office and also affecting the users. So that's a really neat feature.
That is very, very neat.
And the last tool for tonight is Snapshot Explorer, and this is also the latest utility that we released. And this provides a quick overview of your snapshot summary. So we can see the total number of snapshots, the oldest snapshots, and as well total snapshot size. And then I break it out in counts, age, and size. So counts is number of VMs with snapshots or multiple snapshots or single snapshots, and also orphaned snapshots. And an orphaned snapshot is a snapshot that if you browse the data store, you see that there is the Delta file. But if you look at Snapshot Manager in vCenter, you won't see any snapshot there. So it's kind of a difference what vCenter thinks it sees and what's actually in the data store. Now this could happen. I've seen this happening many, many times with customers that they don't see anything in Virtual Center in Snapshot Manager, but if you look closer at the data store, there's open active data Delta files. So that's a really neat functionality that's not available from vCenter. And then the age is, you can look at this. So we have 519 snapshot with older than 7 days. And these provides both like an at-a-glance information as well as its predefined filters. So if I click on this one here, then sets the filter down here to greater than 90 days because I clicked here on this 90 days. And you can have create advanced queries. So if I want to see older than or have more than greater or equal to 2 snapshots, so you can now see that this list getting smaller and smaller or shorter and shorter. So I have only now showing with 2 snapshots or more, and they must be 90 days or older. And I can also only show larger than 1 gig. So you can quickly, excuse me, it can filter it down to any needs that you have. And then you could also show the details either individually or by group. So you can quickly expand and see what different snapshots you have, see the descriptions, see what data store they are on, and then different age and size for these different snapshots. So it's kind of really neat functionality. And yeah, snapshots, as you know, can really affect performance. And speaking of snapshots, I have a presentation for VMware this year. So if you are at VMworld, either in US or in Europe, will be a session with me and also David Davis, where we will do some myth busting. One of the myths there is actually that snapshots can create a severe performance problem. So we're going to see if that's still is true or not. So tune in for that for more details.
Excellent. Well, I might have to hit that session. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, I did this 2 years ago with Eric Sleuth. Kind of a funny, different concept where we have a series of different virtualization myths and then put it in the test lab, similar to the TV show on Discovery.
Sure.
We're not blowing up disk arrays or anything like that. We're kind of looking at performance-related kind of myths and see, because there's so many things that have changed over time, and people are still managing and making decisions based on ESX2 or ESX3, kind of how they used to be. So we kind of want to get people more up to speed of how it is today. So it's good, an interesting, funny session.
No, that would be really neat if you actually blew up the disk array, though.
Yeah, we'll have to see what we can do there. I won't promise anything. So that's the different six different utilities combined into the freeware suite, which is called Foglight for Virtualization Free Edition. And it's available for download from our website, and it's on. You can include the URL on the podcast.
Absolutely, we'll have the links to it within the show notes. So if you guys are actually watching this video on DABCC.com, then just look below the video and you'll see the show notes, and inside there'll be links to download and for more information. If you found this via iTunes, because we are on iTunes, and I know a lot of you guys just subscribe on iTunes and have it delivered to your computers or phones or iPads or what have you, then just head on over to dabcc.com and head to TV, and you'll find all the show notes for this and other videos that we do too. So definitely check that out. But also head on over to Dell, because they today we're showing off the free tools that these guys are doing. But they also have just tons of amazing virtualization tools, both free and paid, commercial version. So check out that. Dell's really assembled a very nice portfolio of solutions for sure. It's actually been quite amazing to watch. So, Mattias, is there anything else you'd like to show us or talk about before we go ahead and just call this an episode and send these guys back to their daily grind?
No, I think we're done here. Thank you very much for having me on the show here tonight.
Hey, thank you so much. Like I said at the beginning, we've been trying to do this for quite some time, and I don't know if the wait was worth it for you guys, but it was definitely for me. Although it's always a shame to postpone things, because this is really a great solution in being free. Get it in the hands of these guys, let them use it, and then they can say, oh, you know what, if I had the paid version, I can upgrade and I can get even more info. But what you guys are giving away for free is phenomenal. It's just mind-blowing, in fact. I do have one quick question, though. You mentioned it works with VMware and Hyper-V and Red Hat. Does that mean I can install the appliance on any of those hypervisors, or do I have to install it on VMware and then I can monitor those other environments?
That's a great question. Yeah, so when you go to our website and download the appliance, you have the choice of either downloading the appliance for VMware, Microsoft, or Red Hat, and that really depends on what hypervisor that you have running. So it's different kind of a package for different appliance for different platforms.
Yep.
But in this case, I'm running appliance on VMware, and then I can still monitor both VMware and the other Microsoft or Red Hat enterprise environments as well. So you have to choose the right appliance for the right platform you're using, and then you can use any of the other platforms to monitor it later when you configure the connections.
Perfect. What kind of overhead does this put on your network? So, for example, maybe someone says, yeah, this is neat, and I have a Hyper-V box as sort of a test box, and I don't have permission to put it on the VMware infrastructure right now because it's prod or whatever, right? For whatever reason. And then they're going to monitor, their environment. What kind of overhead do you put on that network?
Well, it's not so much network overhead. We're doing we don't install anything on the management systems or on the Hyper-V host or anything. Everything is agentless. So for VMware, we connect over to vCenter and gather the data over the real-time API there. And Hyper-V with connecting over WMI or WinRM.
Okay.
And for Red Hat, we talk directly to Red Hat Enterprise Virtualization Manager to the database and take the data from there. The appliance itself, the minimum system requirements is 2 virtual CPUs and 4 gigs of memory. But for really small test labs, you can run smaller, but that's the minimum system requirement that we recommend. And in the installation notes that comes with the appliance is all the sizing recommendation based on number of VMs, so you can really make sure that you have the right amount of resources allocated.
Perfect. Okay, on that note, let's just go ahead and call this an episode. So again, Mattias, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us. And for you guys out there watching and listening, you have noticed a couple times that Mattias said, the evening, it's nighttime. So for him, it is nighttime. For me, it's daytime. So Mattias, I appreciate you taking your evening to do this with us when you could be doing something a little bit more fun, possibly. Although, what's more fun than virtualization? What's more fun than free tools?
You're right. It's not a bad spot to be in.
No, it's not. The wives, they don't find it as fun. That's the problem. But I sure do. On that note, thanks everyone for listening to this episode of DABCC TV. Definitely head on over to dabcc.com for the latest and greatest virtualization news and support resources, as I like to say. And of course, DABCC Radio, where we have tons of audio podcasts where we do just what we did with Mattias today, but instead of showing it, we chat about it for quite a long time and have a good time doing that. So hope you guys enjoy the shows and have a great day. And again, thanks for listening to DABCC TV.